Donald Rainwater, the next governor of the state of Indiana. Thank you.
You start that.
Yep. And you don't have to get on your knees.
You must be getting tired.
Babbling.
Can you guys hear me back there okay? I'm a little more shy than Will and Tanya are, so you might have trouble hearing me. I'm also much more demure than they are. I normally start talking to people with a quote from Ronald Reagan's inaugural address, where he talked about, in this present crisis, government is not the solution to the problem, government is the problem. Amen. And then I go on from there and I start talking about the different crises that we're in here in the state of Indiana. But I'm gonna change that a little bit, because I had a conversation with a young woman last night, and in that conversation, something struck me. And I want to share that with you before we talk about anything else, because the more I think about it, frankly, the more angry I get. And I think we should all be angry. So if we talk today and you don't leave here with anything else, to be very honest, I hope you leave here angry. I know that sounds funny, but I was born in a country whose founding documents, the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution of the United States of America, and the Constitution of the state of Indiana, define the limitations of government to protect the rights of individuals to decide their own destinies. That's what this country was founded on. And a young lady walked up to me last night wearing a mask, and she says, "Do you not think it's real?" And I said, "What? What don't I think? The virus." I said, "Yes, I think it's real. I have an uncle who died last week from Parkinson's and COVID-19 complications. I know it's real. My brother was in the hospital with it for 3 weeks on oxygen. He's a bigger man than me, but he survived. I know it's real. Why do you ask me because you don't wear a mask?" That's a personal choice. I am an American. Amen. I believe that in America, we assess risk and make a personal determination as to what risk I'm willing to take and what I need to do to protect myself, my family, my home, my business, and my church if I choose to do so.
That's right.
And I said, I don't believe that one man has the authority in the state of Indiana to determine for 6.7 million people that because we don't want people to die from this virus, we're not going to care how many people commit suicide or have drug addiction relapses and overdose and go to the hospital or die, or how many people are affected by domestic violence and end up in a hospital or die, or any other adverse effects of telling people to stay home, close your business, don't go to church. People have started asking me, well, do you think the mask mandate is the worst thing? No. No, the mask mandate may have been the final straw. but a singular individual deciding who's essential and who is not, who we can throw under the bus, and it just doesn't matter, because, you know, they're only restaurant and bar workers. If that doesn't, I'm sorry, I know they're kidding. If that doesn't piss you off, it should. Because the more I think about it, and the more people ask me, well, do you think it's the mask mandate? No. You know what? I don't. I don't think it's the mask mandate. I think it's Hoosiers waking up and realizing that their government has gotten too big, too powerful, and doesn't give a plug nickel about them. And they're sick of it, and it's time to put a stop to it. And when somebody looks at you and says, well, Rainwater wants to lift all the mandates, does he just not care about people dying? You can look at him and say, no, he cares very much, which is why he doesn't believe that he has the right to decide who gets to live and who has to die. That's up to you. You are an American. You are a Hoosier. You are a human being. And your destiny should be in your hands, not Eric J. Holt. Here, here. Now we have other crises too. I'm going to try to pull myself back from the ledge. I apologize.
How much sugar's in that tea, Don?
0, but it's caffeinated. Oh, and I'll tell you something. What you see is what you get. This is me. We have an education crisis in this state. Were you waving at me just now?
I would just say, if that's you, then we don't need the makeup artist for the debate, right?
That's right. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. We have an education crisis in this state. We have a governor who, because the duly elected superintendent of public instruction disagreed with him. Now, keep in mind, I'm not a big fan of Jennifer McCormick, but she was duly elected by the citizens of the state of Indiana. And when she didn't agree with him, he went to the General Assembly and said, y'all need to pass legislation so that the citizens of Indiana never get to vote for that again. I want to pick. I want it to be on me. So whether you know it or not, Eric J. Holcomb took your right to vote away from you so that he could pick the next Secretary of Education, so that they would do what he wanted. The man is out of control.
We did, because they said it
Plain
looks like
and
it's
simple.
going to come out backward. That's what
Education should be in the hands of parents, not a tyrannical governor who has run amok.
Here, here. That's right.
Every child in the state of Indiana, and I challenge you, if you bring me identical twins, I think I can prove to you that they have unique characteristics as well, right? No two kids are the same. And our children are our most important natural resource in Indiana, because if we don't take care of our kids, we won't have an Indiana. It'll be gone. Because the government-run education system is socially engineering your children to want government socialism and for you to be ignored.
Yes.
And if you have kids in public education today, you know that's the truth. They are teaching them socialism, and you don't have to listen to your parents.
My belt says so.
I believe that every child deserves an educational experience best tailored for them. Every child is unique. They have educational strengths, weaknesses, desires, interests. A one-size-fits-all socialized public education system doesn't benefit anybody but big government. I believe that we can improve the public education system. We can expand parental educational choice with charter schools, private schools, online learning, and innovations in education that people haven't even thought of yet. If we just get government out of education. Decentralize, for those of you, I'm 57 years old. I just turned 57. I graduated high school in 1981, which means that the majority of my public education was before Jimmy Carter screwed it up by creating the Federal Department of Education. I do not believe that education should be run by the federal government or the state government. It should be run by local school boards, local school districts, and strong parent-teacher organizations. I believe that that's the only way that we can reverse the damage that has been done by the social engineering going on in our schools instead of the education that should be happening. So I want to fix that. And the way we fix that is to get education back in the hands of parents for their kids. We also have a crisis in the state of Indiana in agriculture. How many of you know somebody who's a family farmer? Is he still here, the young man that, yeah, right there. He asked me a question earlier, and I answered it, and I want to make sure that I make this very clear to everybody. The only way we get out of the economic crisis that we're in Indiana today is to rebuild the foundation that our economy was built on, which is small business and family farmers. That's it. Now, Eric J. Holcomb says that we have 118,000 unfilled high-paying jobs because Hoosiers haven't been trained up to fill them. First of all, who's responsible for education in the state of Indiana? Right now, Eric J. Holcomb. So if there aren't enough people trained to fill these jobs, that must be his fault. But he says he wants to dig us out of the economic hole by bringing in more of these jobs. So let me ask you a question. Can somebody explain to me, if there are 118,000 unfilled jobs that Hoosiers cannot do, and we bring in 25,000, 30,000 more of those, how many unemployed people are going to get a job?
0.
That's right, 0. That dog don't hunt, folks. Yet, we don't call him on it. Well, on October 20th, I'm calling him on it. Because we don't need more corporate jobs from out of state where the corporations get tax abatements for 10 years while they raise your taxes to pay for the economic development that these businesses are going to come and live in. Right? That's what they do. They give them a 10-year tax abatement on property taxes, then they raise your taxes in order to build the buildings that the corporations then come and inhabit. And then in 10 years, when the tax abatement's gone, This corporation goes to another state, this building is empty, jobs are lost, and the governor goes, I'm still getting paid. And it's time it stopped. Because the reality is, we need to invest in ourselves. We need to eliminate the individual income tax in the state of Indiana. 9 other states have done it, they're all doing fine. Now people ask me, Don, how are you going to replace that revenue? And I'm going to take this, before I answer that, I'm going to take this a step further. I also want to eliminate the personal property tax on your primary residence. That's why I didn't have an alcoholic beverage earlier, so I could say that without stumbling. Because that alliteration is kind of difficult. The personal property tax on your primary residence. But see, I'm a libertarian. I believe that if you have to pay the government twice a year to keep your property, you don't really own it. They do.
Yeah.
And if you voluntarily engage in a contract with a mortgage company, that's your choice. But when the government says, you'll pay us twice a year, 1% of what we assess your property's value to be, that's robbery, folks. It's legalized robbery. People say, well, how are you going to pay for schools? Well, let me tell you something. First of all, let's get one thing perfectly straight. The Indiana General Assembly has the authority and the power to take the money that is collected and put it toward whatever the hell they want. And I'm going to give you an example. They raised your gasoline excise tax 10 cents and then indexed it for inflation. By the way, you know what that means? Indexed for inflation means they don't have to vote anymore to raise the tax. They gave it to the Department of Revenue here in Indiana, and they raise it a penny a year because of inflation. That's taxation without representation. The representatives don't have to vote on it anymore, which means they can continue to raise your taxes, and you don't have a voice in it anymore. Thank you, Eric J. Holcomb. Taxes. Taxes. How will we pay for the government? Folks, the state budget agency issued a memorandum to the 50-some state agencies on July 31st, 2020. And they said, and I'm going to kind of summarize it, because I didn't memorize it. And when you don't memorize, you have to summarize. So first they said, now y'all know that what we normally do is tell you that your budget next year is going to be what they call a variant. That means we're going to give you a percentage, and we're going to raise your budget that percentage next year from what it was this year. But we can't do that because Eric J. Holcomb destroyed the economy in Indiana, and we didn't collect all the taxes we estimated. So, since we didn't collect all the taxes we estimated, we're going to ask you all to cut your budget 15%. Now, they didn't blink when they said that. You know why they didn't blink? Because they knew it was no big deal. And you know why they knew it was no big deal? Because what they do to figure out the budget, and this is no lie, they figure out what they estimate they're going to be able to steal from you. What they think they're going to collect in taxes. And then they tell them that the budget is going to be just a little less than that. And then they turn around at you and brag about how fiscally responsible they are because they spend less than they take in. They don't figure, what do we need? No, it's, oh, we're going to be able to take in $17 billion. We're going to steal $17 billion from the citizens of the state of Indiana so we can spend 16 and a half and keep a $500 million and put it in the rainy day fund and say, not only did we steal from you, We didn't spend it all, and we stuck it in a savings account that we get to collect interest on, but you don't.
Boo.
And oh, we're in an economic crisis, but we still got our savings account. But you don't. Because you had to file unemployment. And when you file unemployment, the unemployment insurance system of the state of Indiana is about 40 years old. Hasn't been updated in that 40 years. It's antiquated, obsolete, and unable to actually support the number of people that needed to apply to get benefits. And the state said, oh, sorry, it's going to take us a while to get to everybody, but we still got our money. So they figure out the budget. They tell these agencies, cut 15%. And then, oh, by the way, we may need you to cut more. So what we would like you to do is make a list of all of the duplicative, obsolete, and underperforming programs in your agency that you believe we can consolidate, merge, or eliminate. Now, folks, something I've said for months is if the government doesn't need it during an emergency, the government don't need it. Right? What did they do? Restaurants, you're not allowed to carry out alcohol from a restaurant, are you? But as soon as they shut down restaurants and told them that they couldn't have indoor seating, what did they do? They suspended that rule and let you take out alcohol from a restaurant. If the government don't need the regulation during an emergency, they don't need it. We need to eliminate all of these unnecessary regulations. And if government doesn't need a program, if they can consolidate, merge, or eliminate government programs during an emergency, they should do it all the time. I'm here to tell you, folks, we can go in and we can modernize, and they talk about modernization, but they don't really do it. But we can modernize, innovate, use things like continuous improvement and design thinking to rethink and improve the, not just the cost effectiveness, but the quality of service within state government, and not reduce the services that are currently being utilized by Hoosiers. And we can cut the budget, we can improve government, we can have better government, not bigger government.
Amen.
Say that with me one time. Better government, not bigger government. Because they don't need, what is that? Well, let's just get some more money and throw it at the problem. That's all government knows how to do. Oh, there's a problem. Well, shoot, we better get more money to throw at it. We don't care. It's not our money. It's yours. Well, I do care. And I believe we can do it better. We can do it cheaper. And we can make sure that we put more money back in your pocket, because when we put money in your pocket, you spend it. Right? When we give no individual income tax to a small business owner who pays his business taxes through his individual income taxes, now they can take that money and reinvest it in their business. They grow their business, and what happens when a business grows? Oh crap, I need to hire people. And now people get jobs. And those are jobs because those businesses are born and grow and thrive in Indiana. We have a better chance of them staying here. So when somebody says to you, well, how's he going to replace that revenue? Look at him and say, he's not. He's going to fix things. Because that's what we need to do. We need to stop thinking the old way, the status quo, listening to what they've told us for decades in order to get us to comply. And instead of us complying, we need to stand up and say, we are the citizens of the state of Indiana, and we have stopped. We no longer consent to this type of abuse.
Amen.
We're not going to do it anymore. It's time to take our government back. Folks, my name's Don Rainwater. I'm the Libertarian candidate for governor here in the state of Indiana. I'm going to save Sam a little time here, and I'm going to tell you that unlike your state government, I don't have deep pockets. Yep, still not deep. Now, we've been very fortunate that people all over the state of Indiana have been donating to our campaign. We've had some people who have been extremely generous. I had a nurse that donated $700. Now, I'm going to tell you something. When a nurse who works in a hospital knows that I believe we need to lift the mandates, and she donates $700 so we can put radio ads on her local radio station, evidently I must have some kind of decent idea. We need your help. Because, as Sam mentioned, Eric J. Holcomb gets a lot of money from big corporations. I don't know whether you know this or not, but he got a $50,000 donation from one of the board members of the company in Virginia that's doing the majority of our COVID-19 testing, and they got a $20 million a month contract for that. And by the way, just to let you know, in my opinion, when you have $20 million a month on the line, would you want testing to stop?
I get tested every week.
And somebody's getting pretty good money out of that, aren't they?
Yes, I work
But not you.
Not me. I work at a nursing home, and every week we have to get tested.
We need your help. Now, Sam's going to tell you, give till it hurts. I'm going to ask you to do this. I want to win on November 3rd. I don't want to win for me, I want to win for you.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you to do this. When Sam says give till it hurts, I want you to hear give till it feels better on November 3rd.
Or 4th.
Or 4th. Well, by the end of the evening on November 3rd. Because I believe that the citizens of the state of Indiana have had enough.
Yes.
And it's time to take our government back. So if you would like to donate, please see Sam. He is extremely skilled at alleviating your burden. Thank you so much, folks.